But wait, a nation obsessed with conquering and controlling Europe was beating the drums and preparing for war. Why, suddenly, were they interested in a frozen desert located thousands of kilometers away from Germany? The Nazis initially claimed it was related to science and scientific research, such as studying geography and mapping the land, as well as research on whales, which were one of the essential materials for making explosives at that time. This seemed reasonable and logical, didn't it? That's what was said. However, the truth was completely different, as is often the case. All exploratory missions have noble aims and cover stories, but the essence is usually either occupation, bringing slaves, or stealing resources from overseas peoples. Schwabenland was not just an ordinary ship, it was equipped with 2 seaplanes that dropped Nazi flags with a swastika onto the ice, thereby claiming for Germany an area of 600,000 square kilometers of Antarctica, larger than Germany itself. So was it just about whales and maps, or was it about something bigger and more secret? After the end of World War II and the defeat of Nazi Germany and the alleged death of Hitler, while the Allies were basking in victory, strange rumors began to surface and spread among the people. Information and news spoke of a Nazi military base existing in Antarctica. This base was called Base 211. According to those rumors, the base was not just a research center but a stronghold hidden deep in the ice, a network of tunnels reinforced with steel, buried diesel submarines, and containing caches filled with food and conventional weapons. They were conducting experiments to manufacture super weapons and flying saucers, as well as ancient space technologies based on secret sciences that remain undiscovered to this day. While many claimed they were hiding gold and stolen treasures, which indeed were found in large quantities in Germany and the surrounding countries, the story of Base 211 has historical roots in the Nazi expedition of 1938. It was real, a historically verified fact, and exists in German archives with photographs of planes over the ice, where the Nazis explored an area in Antarctica called Queen Maud Land and published their findings in scientific journals. The German media covered this exploration extensively and took many photographs and evidence. Months after the war and Germany's surrender, mysterious reports emerged about sightings of German U-boats, specifically U-530 and U-977, near South America, particularly Argentina. The 2 submarines surrendered to authorities, and after interrogating their crews, they claimed they were on routine missions, but it became apparent that their records were incomplete and did not match their routes, and the story was completely illogical. Questions began to arise. Were they coming from Antarctica or heading to it? There was a dangerous witness in the story named Wilhelm Londig, a former officer in the German security forces who became a writer in the 1970s. Londig published a series of novels in which he claimed that Base 211 in New Schwabenland was a secret center under the ice where Nazi scientists tested advanced technologies from the future.
An intriguing element was added to the story when, in August 1946, more than a year after the end of the war and the fall of Berlin, the United States launched an operation called Operation High Jump. This was a massive mission that utilized 13 ships, 23 aircraft, and 4,700 soldiers led by Admiral Richard E. Byrd. The official American narrative claimed that the mission was a training exercise to test military equipment and technology in harsh conditions, as well as to map Antarctica. But this raised a sharp question. Why send a small army to a continent without enemies? And why did Admiral Byrd hint at the existence of something large in his private diaries? Some say that Operation High Jump was not a scientific expedition as much as it was a hunt for Nazi remnants, referring the public to an interview conducted by Admiral Richard with a Chilean newspaper called El Mercurio in 1947. In that strange interview, Byrd warned of enemy aircraft with extraordinary capabilities to fly from the North Pole to the South Pole in moments. However, the man did not specify whether these were Nazi warplanes, flying saucers, or something else. This idea gained strong traction in the 1950s when science fiction magazines like Amazing Stories published tales of Nazi flying saucers emerging from polar bases, in addition to the Hollow Earth theory, which claimed that Antarctica hid a huge hole as an entrance to a secret world beneath the surface inhabited by creatures never before seen. Although this sounds fanciful, the Nazis believed in strange things, and this obsession with the unknown allowed Germany to become one of the most advanced and developed countries, whether in terms of mechanical inventions or futuristic technology. The high jump mission officially ended earlier than expected, with the official reason being the freezing temperatures and bad weather. However, rumors suggested that Admiral Byrd's team suffered a strong military attack, resulting in the destruction of their aircraft, many soldiers being injured, and some dying. The American Navy's neglect of this matter ignited curiosity among people, and everyone began to wonder if the Americans had indeed discovered Nazi Base 211 and engaged in direct combat with the Germans. Historians like Colin Summerhayes, a British oceanographer, in articles like Hitler's Base in Antarctica, Myth and Reality, argue that the idea of Nazi Base 211 is a myth born from post-World War II paranoia and the product of science fiction literature. This seems to be largely true and logical, but it does not negate the existence of many strange and mysterious facts about Nazi Germany during that period. Such rumors spread rapidly and found a large fan base for several reasons. Hitler's inner circle, whether military or even scientists from all fields, was obsessed with mystery, research, and exploration. Heinrich Himmler, the head of the German SS, sent exploration teams to Tibet in search of ancient Aryan legends to support Nazi ideology and launched exploratory missions to search for the Holy Grail, much like Indiana Jones, and they excavated ancient relics. They became known for their experiments in hypnosis and mind control, weather control experiments, and their strange experiments with the Vril energy, which they believed granted the Aryan race superhuman powers. Germans were always superior to many nations in physics and sciences, and secret projects like the V2, the world's first ballistic missile. In Antarctica, rumors and hypotheses suggest they were searching for something crazier, perhaps evidence of a lost civilization beneath the ice, like the lost civilization of Atlantis, or advanced space technology they wanted to maintain a monopoly on, just as they planned to win the race to create the first nuclear bomb. In the 1950s, science fiction magazines like Amazing Stories published stories about Nazi flying saucers emerging from polar bases, and proponents of the hollow Earth theory claimed that the Antarctic continent hides a secret world beneath it. Could they have built something of this kind in Antarctica? For building tunnels under the ice is a very challenging task, but in the end, it is not impossible. And modern bases like McMurdo Station prove that it is possible to live there year-round, provided there is a supply line from outside for basic life materials. The Nazis had incredible engineering skills that still serve as a benchmark today, thanks to people like Wernher von Braun, who later helped humanity reach the moon. While the story of the base may be exaggerated, their maps for the 1938 expedition were frighteningly detailed. But the core question remains, why did they choose Antarctica, a place far from Germany, thousands of kilometers away, a desolate and harsh location? Just the thought of reaching it is a nightmare in itself, as death on the way is highly likely. Temperatures drop to minus 70 degrees Celsius, with winds blowing at 200 kilometers per hour, and the night lasts for 6 months of the year. With a little thought, it becomes clear that this harsh environment in the South Pole is the ideal specification for establishing a secret base isolated from the outside world, beyond the control of any superpower, and no one would accidentally see it while walking by. The hypotheses suggest that when the Nazis realized that the balance of power was not in their favor, Antarctica appeared as an alternative refuge for Hitler, either for survival or to resurrect the Fourth Reich in the event of its fall, as well as a place to regroup and store their spoils. It has indeed been revealed that millions of dollars worth of gold and precious artworks disappeared after the fall of Berlin. Some say it ended up in Swiss banks, but smuggling it to Switzerland back then was impossible and akin to suicide, as Germany was surrounded by Allied forces. The evidence for the existence of Base 211 is frankly very weak and almost non-existent, and the entire story is built on rumors and hypotheses rather than real, verified information. To this day, no tunnels have been found, nor have any Nazi remains been uncovered on the polar continent, and modern satellite surveys of Queen Maud Land show ice and rocks, with no trace of any hidden Nazi base beneath the polar continent, which itself is the target of many hypotheses and rumors that stimulate people's thirst for the unknown. But as long as the mystery envelopes this story, and although it is largely just a myth, it will not die out like many other stories, such as the story of Hitler's death itself, which to this day has no conclusive evidence. Some say he committed suicide, while others claim he escaped to Argentina. But do you know what is beautiful about this? I dedicated a whole episode